Jaren Ward, a name that's been echoing through the community lately. But who is he? And why is there suddenly so much excitement around him? Today we're diving into the legend himself, the fabled gunslinger, the quiet guardian who inspired generations, and the man many believe is about to arrive in Destiny Rising. Let's start with the evidence, the real in-game hints that point directly towards Jaren Ward becoming Season 2, Act 2's new banner character. While rumors swirl across the Rising forums, we're sticking to what we can actually see within the game itself. Our first clues come from the newest arsenal added to the game. Jaren Ward followed the blueprint for the classic Western hero, a fast-drawing hunter with a hand cannon matched by no other. And suddenly Rising drops 2 brand new hand cannons, despite only a Tal currently being able to wield them. Strange. Maybe intentional? Most definitely. They even have Empty Fort Strategy, a solar hand cannon oozing Western flair. But let's focus on the solar part, because even if Jaren Ward wasn't a solar guardian in the lore, his protege, Shin Malphur, would go on to cast the very first golden gun, defining the solar subclass forever. And if that wasn't enough, there's the Thermoplay 80, another Western-themed solar weapon sporting the perk Conjugation, which only works with a solar character that we currently don't have yet. The biggest hint, though, comes from the Wastelander seal. One triumph requires completing either Maru's quest, Take the Bait, or the mysterious second character's quest titled Guest from the West, a direct nod to Jaren Ward's Western persona. But who exactly was Jaren Ward? Why does the community hold him in such high regard? To understand that, we need to step back into Destiny's past, to the ashes of the Dark Age, to the town of Palamon, and to a boy who would one day become a legend. The man I would come to know as Jaren Ward, my third father and quite possibly the closest friend, came to Palamon from the south. I was just a boy, but I'll never forget his silhouette on the empty trail as he made his slow walk into town. I'd never seen anything like him. Maybe none of us had. He said he was only passing through, and I believed him. Still do, but life can get in the way of a tent, and often does. I can picture that day with near-perfect clarity. Of all the details, though, every nuance, every moment, the memory that sticks in my mind is the iron on Jaren's hip. A cannon that looked both pristine and lived in, like a relic of every battle he'd ever fought, hung low at his waist, a trophy and a warning. This man was dangerous, but there was a light about him, a pureness to his weight that seemed to hint that his ear was something earned, not carelessly given. I'd be the first to see him as he approached, but soon most of Palamon had turned out to greet him. My father held me back as everyone stood in silence. Jaren didn't make a sound behind his sleek racer's helmet. He looked just like the heroes in the stories, and to this day I'm not sure one way or the other if the silence between the town's people and the adventurer was born of fear or respect. I like to think the latter, but any truth I try to place on the moment would be of my own making. As we waited for Magistrate Loken to arrive and make an official greeting, my patience got the best of me. I shook free of my father's heavy hand and made the short sprint across the court, stopping a few paces from where this new curiosity stood, a man unlike any other. I stared up at him, and he lowered his attention to me, his eyes hidden behind the thick, tinted visor of his headgear. My sight quickly fell to his sidearm. I was fixated by it. I imagined all the places that weapon had been, all the wonders it had seen, the horrors it had endured. My imagination darted from one heroic act to the next. I barely registered when he began to kneel, holding out the iron as if an offering, but my eyes locked onto the piece, mesmerized. I recall turning back to my father and seeing the looks on the faces of everyone I knew. There was worry there, my father slowly shaking his head as if pleading with me to ignore the gift. I turned back to the man I would come to know as Jaren Ward, the finest hunter this system may ever know, and one of the greatest guardians to ever defend the Traveler's Light. And I took the weapon in my hand, carefully, gently. Not to use, but to observe, to imagine, to feel its weight and know its truth. That was the first time I held last word, but unfortunately, not the last. From the moment Jaren stepped into Palamon, he carried himself like someone who had already survived 1,000 battles, calm, controlled, deadly when needed. But Palamon wasn't peaceful for long. Under Magistrate Loken's tyranny, the town was rotten from the inside, until Jaren finally stood up and Loken wouldn't take an outsider questioning him lightly. Loken's men found Jaren Ward in the courtyard where this had all began. 9 guns trained on him, 9 cold hearts awaiting the order. Magistrate Loken, standing behind them, looked pleased with himself. Jaren Ward stood in silence, his ghost peeked out over his shoulder. Loken took in the crowd before stepping forward, as if to calm the ground. His ground. "You question me?" There was venom in his words. "This is not your home." I remember Loken's gesture here, making a show of it all. Everyone else was still, quiet. I tugged at my father's sleeve, but he just tightened his grip on my shoulder to the point of pain, his way of letting me know that this was not the time. I'd watched Jaren's every move over the past months, mapping his effortless gestures and slight earned mannerisms. I'd never seen anything like him. He was something I couldn't comprehend, and yet I felt I understood all I needed the moment I'd seen him. He was more than us, not better, not superior, just more. I wanted Father to stop what was happening. Looking back now, I realized that he didn't want to stop it. No one did. As Loken belittled Jaren Ward, taunted him, enumerated his crimes and sins, my eyes were stuck on Jaren's pistol, fixed to his hip, his steady hand resting calmly on his belt. I remembered the pistol's weight, effortless, and my concern faded. I understood. "This is our town, my town." Loken was shouting now. He was going to make a show of Jaren, teaching the people of Palamon a lesson on obedience. Jaren spoke, clear and calm. "Not anymore." Loken laughed, dismissively. He had 9 guns on his side. "Those gonna be your last words then, boy?" The movement was a flash, quick as chain lightning. Jaren Ward spoke as he moved. "Yours, not mine." Smoke trailed from Jaren's revolver. Loken hit the ground, a dark hole in his forehead, eyes staring into eternity. Jaren stared down the 9 guns trained on him. One by one, they lowered their aim, and the rest of my life began, where in a few short years, so many others would be ended. That showdown made Jaren a hero, but the universe wasn't done testing him. With Loken dead, Palamon found peace at last, though a brittle one, doomed to shatter because something far worse was following the trail. A shadow taller than any guardian, a killer wrapped in sorrow and hunger. Then, Palamon was ash. I was only a boy, my face caked in soot, snot, and sorrow. I assumed Jaren, my friend, our guardian, the savior of Palamon, would always protect us, could always save us. But I was a fool. Jaren and the others, only a handful, but still our best hunters, our hardest hearts, had left 3 suns prior, tracking Fallen after the bandits had caused a stir. The stranger, the other, arrived the following day. He rarely spoke, took a room, took our hospitality. I was intrigued by him as I was Jaren when he first arrived. But the stranger was cold, distant, damaged, I thought. But I wasn't afraid. Not yet. Only a child, I knew the monsters of our world to walk like men, but they were not. They were something alien, four-armed and savage. The stranger was polite, but solemn. I took him for a sad but broken man, and he was. Though at the time I didn't understand how that could make one dangerous. As with Jaren, Father made an effort to keep me away from the stranger. It wouldn't matter. As the silhouette approached, fear held tight. The dark figure towered over me, looking into me, through me. He smiled, my knees weak, all lost. Then he turned and walked away, leaving ruin and a heartbroken, terrified boy in his wake without a second glance. I've been chasing that stranger's shadow ever since. This shadow-covered man was none other than Jaren Ward, the first guardian to fall to darkness, a murderer and a villain known far and wide. Dredgen Yor razed Palamon to ash, and Jaren couldn't let that go. With the last word at his side, he and his allies hunted the nightmare across the wilds. Many moons would pass till the fateful day of their meeting. It was the 4th night of the 7th moon, 9 rises since any sign. Trail wasn't cold, but lukewarm would have been an exaggeration. Jaren had us holed by a ravine. The heavy wood along the cliff's edge caught the wind, holding back the cold, and the rush of water muffled our conversation. We'd seen dual skiffs hanging low as they cut through the valley. Wasn't known fallen territory, but anymore that's a dangerous assumption. There were 6 of us then. 3 less than 2 moons prior, but still, 1 more than we'd first turned our backs to Palamon's ash. We took a rotation for watch during the night. Movement was kept to a minimum, and communication was down to hand signals and simple gestures. We could hold our own in a fight, but only the dead went looking for one, a hard truth that cut into direct opposition of our reasons for being so far from anything resembling civilization, much less our safety. The skiffs had spooked Kressler and Nada, and in truth, me as well. But looking back, I think we were all just grasping for any good reason to turn back. Not because we would turn back, but because it seemed to be our only real hope. And I think we knew it. Forward, where we were headed, into the unknown, and following the footsteps we were. It all just started to feel like a never-ending dead end after a while. Jaren never wavered, though. Not once. At least not to any noticeable degree. It was his drive, his conviction that kept us going. And it's hard to think on, but if I'm honest, it was his death that rekindled my own fire. A fire that was all but exhausted on that cold night. He seemed confident we were close, but more than confident, sure. He seemed sure. No one else felt it. Our own confidence and enthusiasm we'd had was set to wither soon, as Brevin, Tren, and Mel were gunned down. The ghost, Jaren's ghost, never said a word to any of us. Just hung there, always alert, always judging. Not us per se, but the moment. Any moment. I never got the sense it thought of us as lesser. More than that, it was guarded, wary. We knew it could speak. We'd overheard them a few times, just brief words, and no one ever pressed the subject. From time to time, I caught its gaze lingering on me, but always assumed the attention was a result of the bond Jaren and I had. He was a father to me. At the time, I didn't know why he'd singled me out as someone to care for, someone to protect. After all the loss, I welcomed it, but looking back, taking in the arm's length at which he kept the others, I guess I should have known, or at least suspected, there was more to it. We all woke that night, closer to morning than the previous day. A crack of gunfire split through the wood. Then more. Far off, but near enough to pump the blood. A familiar ring, last word, Jaren's sidearm, his best friend. Then, another. A single shot, an unmistakable echo calling through the night, hushed, cutting. One shot, dark and infernal, followed by silence. We crouched, low and quiet, listening, hoping. Jaren was gone, off on his own. Maybe we were closer than we'd allowed ourselves to believe. Too close. He'd gone to face death alone. I couldn't admit it. Not at the time, but he thought he was protecting us. After such a long road, years on his heels, a trail littered with suffering and fire, maybe he just couldn't take the thought of any more dead kids, as he called us. The echoes faded and we all held still. No way to track the direction, no sense in rushing blind. What was done was done. The cadence of the shots fired told us a story none of us cared to hear. Last word, it hadn't been. And somewhere in the world, close enough for us to bear absent witness, but far enough to be a dream, Jaren Ward lay dead or dying, and there was nothing to be done. This was never Jaren's story to finish. He was the spark, not the fire. His fall was the catalyst that would give rise to one of the greatest confrontations the Light would ever know, the showdown between Shin Malphur and Dredgen Yor. And just the thought of possibly being able to play out that scenario or see those characters one day in Destiny Rising has me excited. But till then, I am excited to play as Jaren Ward if he is coming in the next banner. Until then, feel free to go down below. Let me know in the comments what you think of Jaren Ward. Are you excited to play as him if he's coming into Destiny Rising? And while you're down there, drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to have yourself a super Nova day!